A very good evening, friends. I welcome you to the YouTube channel of Blind Bankers of India. This is Dr. Ashwini Kumar Agarwal bringing you yet another lesson in the first mandatory paper of CIIB, that is Advanced Bank Management. And today we're going to focus on chapter 6, that is Indian economy, its various sectors. So obviously, Indian economy and its various sectors are very important. And today, the student role shall be played by Anamika Gulshan. Anamika Gulshan, how are you?
Fine, sir.
Thank you. Great. You are sounding great. So, Anamika, we will be studying this chapter in 3 phases. The first phase, we will understand the overview of the Indian economy. Second phase, we will understand the various sectors are there. And in the third phase, we will understand how the structural changes have been taking place. So in how many areas we will study?
3.
1 to 3 areas, correct. So first will be the overview. Second would be the various sectors that are there. And third, we'll study the structural changes. Okay, first of all, for the overview, there are 3 phases. The first phase is from 1900 to 1950. So what is the first phase period?
1900 to 1950.
Correct. And the second phase is from 1950 to 1980. These are the 30 years. So what is the second phase?
1950 to 1980.
Correct. And the third phase that we'll study is from 1980 to 2005. These are another 25 years. So what is the third phase?
1980 to 2005.
Correct. So during 1900 to 1950, the growth rate of Indian economy was 0.9%, less than 1%. It was just 0.9%, and the population growth was 0.8%. The GDP growth rate was 0.9, and the population growth rate was 0.8%. That means there was literally no increase in the per capita income in the economy. Economy is almost stagnant for 50 years. That is from 1900 to 1950. The growth rate of GDP was simply 0.9%. So what was the growth rate?
9%.
0.9 only.
0.9.
And second thing is population was growing at 0.8%.
0.8%.
Population was growing at 0.8%.
0.8%.
So population growth was very low because the death rate was very high as well as the birth rate was very high. So literally the population was stagnant around 33 crore Indians were there throughout from 1900 to 1950. Once we became independent, then we had a planning structure. And from 1950 to 1980, the growth rate was 3.5%. So what was the growth rate of Indian economy between 1950 to 1980?
3.5%.
Correct. So it was growing at 3.5%, and it is well known, it is known as Hindu growth rate. It is known as Hindu growth rate. In CIB examination, you will find the question would be there. Indian economy grew at 3.5% from 1950 to 1980. So what is this called? The answer you will give is, what will the answer you will give? Hindu growth rate.
Hindu growth.
What? Yeah. What is the answer you will give?
Hindu growth rate.
Correct. And they can ask, in economics, there is a Hindu growth rate. So how much was the growth rate in the Indian economy, which is known as Hindu growth rate? So you will say 3.5%.
3.5.
So 3.5% is the answer in the MCQ when you will be facing. So you will be answering 3.5%. And when did this Hindu growth rate took place? So that is from 1950 to 1980.
80.
Yeah. So when did this Hindu growth rate take place?
3.5.
3.5%. And what was the period?
And 1950 to 1980.
Correct. Slightly slow down. You're running very fast, right?
Okay.
Okay. Great. So in 1980 to 2005, the third phase was from what time to what time?
1980 to 2005.
Correct. So these 25 years, the growth rate was 6%. See, till 1980, we were growing just at 3.5%. And suddenly from 1980 to 2005, the growth rate literally doubled to 6%. So what was the growth rate between 1980 to 2005?
6%.
Right. So this is very important for your examination. Then from when we came for the next millennium, and this millennium started in the year 2001, from 2001 to 2008, the growth rate of Indian economy was 8.2%, 7.2%. I'm repeating it, from 2001 to 2000, this thing, 2009, 2001 to 2009, the growth rate was 7.2%.
2%.
So in the year 2005 to 2009, the growth rate touched 8.8%. From 2005 to 2009, the growth rate was 8.8%. You can just imagine how beautifully we were growing. So the Indian economy has three phases. The first phase is from which time to which time?
90 to
1900 to 1950.
90.
And there, the growth rate was literally zero. There was hardly any growth rate because GDP was growing at 0.9 and even the population was growing at 0.8%. So per capita
8%.
income was literally stagnant. There's no increase in per capita income. Then we had a Hindu growth rate from what time to what time?
1980 to 90.
No, 1950 to
1950 to 1980.
correct. Then we had a faster growth phase. The third phase was a faster growth rate where we were growing around 6%. What was this phase from?
1980 to 2005.
And when the next millennium came in the year 2001, from 2001 to 2009, the growth rate was, you have
6%.
an idea? 7.2%.
7.2%.
And from 2005 to 2009, the growth rate touched how much?
8.5, sir?
8.8%.
8.8.
Correct. So now you see how the growth rate of the Indian economy has been growing. Now we will look at the gross domestic investment. We will be looking at the GDI. It is called gross domestic investment, how much the investment is taking place. So gross domestic investment, it was 22% in the year 2001. So gross domestic investment, whatever the income of the country is there, GDP is there, out of that, how much we save and invest, that was 22%. 22%. It was 22% in the year 2001.
21.
And by the year 2007, it touched 35%. So it increased from 22% to what percentage? 22% in 2001. It touched which percentage by the year 2007?
35.
35%. So it touched 35%. And you know, Anamika,
What?
95% of this domestic, the investment that India was going through, it was domestic. Literally 95% was domestic investment. Hardly 5% was coming from abroad.
Okay.
You can see how beautifully our economy started growing after 1980s. People started saving, people started investing, technology came, and we suddenly started growing very fast. So during the first phase from 1900 to 1950, literally no growth. From 1950 to 1980, Hindu growth rate. And from 1980 onwards, our economy has been booming. The population growth rate has moderated. Population growth rate has slightly slowed down. And the economy is booming. And the investment is also growing very well. I saw the investment was just 22% in 2001 and it rose to 35% in the year 2007. Now we look at the inflation. Inflation is general increase in price level. And we're going to look at the WPI. WPI is wholesale price index. So this, WPI is wholesale price index.
Okay.
Okay, wholesale price index.
Pricing.
So see, what happened is during the first phase, that is from 1950 to 1980, the inflation rate was as high as 15%. And we were having food shortage, we were having oil shortage, and everything was very, very expensive during this phase from 1950 to
1980.
1980. Things slightly improved between 1980 and 1990. And by the year 1990 to 1995, in the year 1990 to 95, 1990 is a very, very crucial year in the Indian economy, when we started opening up, and there was a serious balance of payment crisis. There was a serious balance of payment crisis in the year 1990. एक second, huh? So what happened in 1990? There was a serious balance of payment crisis because of the Gulf War. There was a Iran-Iraq war was there. Because of that, the prices of oil shot up considerably, very expensive. And because of the war was very expensive, what it resulted in, that the amount of support that we were getting from the rest of the world and from the Eastern world, it came down. So we had a phase where we had to literally transfer our gold to abroad to get the money. So there was a very, very serious crisis in the year 1990. But from 1990 to 95, the inflation rate dropped from 15% to 11%. Between 1990 to 1995, there's 5 years, right? The inflation rate dropped to what percentage, Anamika?
Sir, 7 to
11%. From 15%, it dropped to 11%. And from 1995 till date, the inflation rate has been somewhere around 5% only. Okay. So what is inflation rate from 1995 till 2010? Just 5%, which is somewhat healthy, somewhat good for the economy. And all in all, our economy is getting strengthened and better. So these are the important things which I shared. First, I shared with you, there is a first phase from 1980 to 1950. Growth rate was literally just 0.9%. Then from 1950 to 1980, it was Hindu growth rate, which was how much?
Sir, 3.5%.
Correct. And from 1980 to 2005, the growth rate increased to
6%.
Correct. Very good. So these are the three phases. And I also shared with you that inflation rate till 1990 was something around 15%.
15%.
From 1990 to 1995, it was 11%. And from 1995 onwards, it has been
5%.
5%. Now I'm going to talk something about the Indian economy. Indian economy has been resilient, very strong. And there has been shocks after shocks that we have got. I will just share. We had a BOP crisis, that is balance of payment crisis, in the year 1990. And from that, we opened the economy. And there was three things: liberalization, privatization, and globalization. And the new technology was opened up. Computerization started, privatization, lot of opening of the economy was there. So there were certain things which are very, like we had a strong East Asian crisis. There was a strong East Asian crisis, and we very well handled it beautifully. Then there was a Russian crisis. In Russian crisis, the price of the ruble fell dramatically. And we had a lot of money from Russia that we had taken in rubles. So if you really see, we could have told, or we will pay back in rubles. So the amount of load that would have been on us would have been very, very less. But we started helping the Russian economy. That was the biggest donation by a weak economy to a strong economy, like a Russian economy, where we paid in terms of dollars to the Russians because they had stood in the worst conditions with us. So that was there. Then we had this Pokhran experiment, which we did. And once we did that Pokhran experiment, the entire world put economic sanctions on us. This post Pokhran era was there. Again, our economy stood strong. Non-resident Indians supported us, and Indian economy went on to do well. Then there was a Kargil war, which was imposed on us. It was very expensive war. We handled it beautifully. Then there came the subprime crisis. In subprime crisis, American banking system failed totally. Still, Indian economy was resilient and it was growing continuously. Then there was an oil crisis. Again, even when the prices of oil shot up, we were in a position to manage it. Then came the food crisis in the world. Again, we had handled it beautifully. Now we have a COVID scenario where the economy has dropped. Still, our reserves are considerable that we have been in a position to take this challenge very well. So our economy, if you see, it is very resilient because it has gone through a lot of shocks, but it has handled those shocks very well. So some of the shocks that we faced, I will just revise it for you. First was the East Asian crisis. What was the first crisis that we went through was?
East Asian.
East Asian crisis. Then second was the Russian crisis. What was the second crisis?
Russian crisis.
Russian crisis, where the ruble felt very badly and still we could handle it beautifully. Then third crisis was Pokhran, post-Pokhran sanctions. What was the third crisis that we went through was?
Post-Pokhran crisis.
Post-Pokhran sanctions which were there.
Okay.
Then the fourth was Kargil war. What was the fourth shock that we went through was? Kargil war.
Kargil.
Then the fifth was subprime crisis, where the American banks failed one after the another. What is the fifth one was? Subprime crisis. Subprime crisis. Then there was an oil shock.
What?
Then there was a food crisis in the world. And now we are facing another crisis, that is a COVID. So the economies are in a tough situation, but we have been in a position to handle it. Now, next, what are the challenges for the Indian economy? The first and the foremost challenge is poverty. What is the first and the most important challenge that Indian economy faces?
Poverty.
Poverty. Large scale poverty is there. Lot of people below poverty line. Second, health. Our health infrastructure is not up to the mark. Whenever there is a health crisis, our systems, doctor per capita, per population ratio is very poor. The hospital number of beds in ratio to the population is very, very low. So our overall health infrastructure is in a very bad shape. So it needs to be strengthened a lot. So what is the second difficulty that Indian economy is having is? Health sector. Infrastructure is very poor. Third thing is education. We are spending hardly 2% of our GDP on education. Wherever most of the economies, they spend around 15% of their entire income on education. So our education infrastructure is very, very poor. There's hardly any research work that we do in real sense. So what is the third most important crisis that we are going through?
Education, sir.
Absolutely, education sector. Fourth is environment.
Okay.
Our environmental structures like forest coverage, then degradation of our rivers, they are in a very, very poor state. A lot of things has to be done with respect to the environment. So what is the next important area that we have to look for our economy is?
Environment.
Environment. We have to improve. Last thing that is very important for our Indian economy that we have to look into is infrastructure. The basic roads, railways, airways, electricity, then all that is needed for the industry to flourish, banking, insurance, they all have to be strengthened. So what are the challenges that Indian economy face? First and the most important is poverty. What is the first and the
Poverty.
most? Then
Poverty.
second
Second
is
is
health.
health.
Third is
Is,
education.
education,
Fourth is environment.
environment, and if infrastructure.
Fifth is infrastructure. So what are the 5 areas? So you have an idea of the 5 areas. First is
Yes.
poverty, second is health, third is education, fourth is environment, and fifth is infrastructure. So this is an overview that I shared with you regarding the Indian economy. Now we will go to the various sectors of Indian economy. So Indian economy is divided into 3 sectors. First is agriculture, second is industry, and third is services. In how many sectors the Indian economy is divided?
3.
In full sentence, you answer.
Uh,
In how many sectors the Indian economy is divided?
so 3 sectors divided economic sector.
Absolutely. Indian economy is divided into 3 sectors.
Yes.
Okay. The first sector of Indian economy is agriculture. It is called primary sector.
Okay.
So what is the first sector of Indian economy?
Sir, agriculture.
And it is called the
private sector.
Primary sector. Okay. The second sector is industry sector, and it is called the secondary sector.
Okay.
So what is the second sector in Indian economy? Industry, and it is
secondary.
called
Secondary.
Absolutely. It is called the secondary sector. What is the third? Third is service sector, and it is called the tertiary sector. So what is the third? Services sector, and it is called the
third.
It is called the tertiary sector.
Tertiary.
So, it is called the tertiary sector.
Okay.
Now we go ahead. First of all, let us understand the agriculture sector. In agriculture contributes 17%, 17% of the GDP. 17% of the GDP of India comes from agriculture sector in 2009. And in 2001, it was literally 21%. So in 2001, it was 20%. 20% of the was coming from agriculture. Now it has dropped to 17%. And 52% of the population, 52% of the population is dependent for employment on agriculture. Right? 52% of the population is dependent for employment with the agriculture. Agriculture provides what? Number one, food. Agriculture provides number one, what?
Food.
Second, it provides raw material. Industry for like cotton, then a lot of raw materials is being produced by agriculture and it is provided to the industry, raw material, right? Then agriculture sector is a big market. Whatever the industry produces, it is purchased by agriculture sector because 52% of the population is dependent on agriculture. So they are a very big market for the industry. So agriculture sector is very, very important for the Indian economy. First, it provides food. Second, it provides raw material. And third, it acts as a market. So why is agriculture important?
Because of
it provides food,
provided foods,
raw materials,
and
as well as acts as a market.
Yes.
Okay. So Indian agriculture is very important. What we observe is there is a green revolution. When we became independent in the 1950s, the population grew very fast because the birth rate was high and the death rate drastically came down as the medical facilities improved. People were happy. So the number of population was very fast increasing. And what was the result? By 1960s, the agriculture production was very low and the population was large. So we had to import food from the rest of the world. We were importing food from Russia, US, Australia, Canada. And because they were providing food to us, they knew they could twist our arms. So obviously, our economy and the amount of world pressure on us was considerable. And for every need, whenever we needed food, they started troubling us. So they forced to open our economy, things like that. But we ultimately thought we need to do something. So we, in 1960s, the research in agriculture started, and we had a green revolution. We had a green revolution, and with this green revolution, our dependence on food on the rest of the world was gone. We became self-sufficient in food production, and our dependence on the rest of the world went off. Nowadays, we have consolidated considerably. Not only we have enough food for our population, we got a very good reserve. So we have been in a position to consolidate. So what is this green revolution, which started in 1960s? First, we did was consolidation of land. We were having land in small chunks, so we helped the customers to consolidate land. So what is the first thing we did was
So it is
consolidation of land. Second is irrigation. We started increasing the irrigated area. When the Indian economy was partitioned, the major irrigated area went to Pakistan. Very good irrigation network was there, and the entire network went to Pakistan, and a part went to, which is now in Bangladesh. And with the result, our cultivation was we were left with very poor irrigation system. So we started developing our irrigation system very quickly. Then third thing we did was modern cultivation methods. We started developing modern cultivation methods so that we can have the multiple crops, and we can do sort of sprinkling irrigation. With less water, we could produce more. Next we did was high yield variety seeds. We went for high yield variety seeds. So the seed quality improved. Then we started having own fertilizers. A lot of research went through what sort of fertilizer should be used. Then water management. We improved the water management. Then we also learned how to preserve the plants. We started using insecticides, pesticides. Then whatever the food was produced, earlier what was there, whatever food we produced, the mouse used to eat it up. Now we had very good storage systems started. Siloses were created so that we could preserve the food beautifully. And we had a very good system how to manage the pests through pesticides. So all these things that we did, consolidation of land, new cultivating methods, irrigation, sprinklers, high yield variety seeds, fertilizers, water management, plant and food management, preservation, storage, insecticides, and better pesticides and other management helped us to become self-sufficient in food. Another thing that we find was we were dependent on monsoon. Even today, we are dependent on monsoon. And if we want to make our agriculture strong, we have to see that we are not dependent on monsoon. If case the monsoon is good, fine. If it is not good, we have the irrigation system in hand and see to it that our production doesn't fall down. Another very important thing, Anamika, we have to see is agriculture has low investment and low return. So people are not ready to invest in agriculture because agriculture is is not yielding very good return. And if we look at the productivity level of our country vis-a-vis Australia, America, Canada, so our productivity is almost 1/3 of theirs. So you can just very well imagine how much possibility of improvement in agriculture production productivity is still there with us. Another very important thing that we have to learn is post harvest. Once we have harvested, so we have to see how food processing industry has to be there so that we are in a position to utilize. See, nowadays, if you go to Maharashtra, lot of fruits have been produced, but there's no one to pick up fruits. So much so, they were making the cow eat muskmelon and all those things, which is very painful. It's so expensive to produce the fruits. So we need to have industry which can preserve these fruits. We need to have cold storage system. So unless or until we have those systems taken care, so whatever is produced, that is preserved, that is very important. We need to double the irrigated area in our country, and it is quite possible by right investment and right system laid down. And another thing is study of the soil. Nowadays, even soil health aspect is coming up. Soil quality can be improved with the use of gypsum, and a lot of improvements can be brought in the soil level so the productivity can be considerably increased. One more thing that we need to do is regarding water management. We need to have reservoirs, we have to rain water harvesters, harvesting has to be done. Then there's a watershed. So whatever the water comes on the roof, that has to be, dragged and put into ponds so that we are in a position to save every drop of water and utilize it for agriculture and producing. So these are some of the things. So let us look at what all we have to do in agriculture. Anamika, you are with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, okay. So agriculture contributes 17% of GDP. How much percentage could produce it gives to GDP?
17%.
Okay. What percentage of population is dependent for employment in agriculture?
Sir, 21.
52%.
Sorry, 52%. Yes.
It is 52% of people are dependent on
agriculture,
right? And I shared with you that agriculture provides food, agriculture provides raw material, and it forms a market also.
Yes.
Then I talked about green revolution. So when did the green revolution started? In the 1960s.
60.
When did the green revolution started?
Sir, 1960.
1960s, right? Then what all thing we did was land consolidation. What is the first thing we did was?
Land consolidation.
Second thing we did is cultivation methods improved. What happened? We started using tractors, tillers. So what we did was cultivation methods were improved. Okay. Third thing was irrigation improved. What is the third thing we did was?
Irrigation improved.
We had a lot of canals built up, and we also had sprinklers laid down all through so that the irrigation system improved. Next we did was high yield variety seeds. What was the next thing we did was?
High yield variety
seeds. Like Pusa Institute was set up with high yield variety seeds were created. So the wheat and the rice production increased many-fold. Next was regarding fertilizer. Lot of research in fertilizer, chemical fertilizer and natural fertilizers. Nowadays, biochemic fertilizers are being encouraged. Next is water management. What was the next thing for green evolution?
Water management.
Very good. Next is plant and food preservation. So we use insecticides so that no insects can eat the plants. So plant and food preservation. And then we had pesticides so that mouse and all those things, rodents, they don't eat up all the food that we have created. We had a storage system. What was the best thing we had was good storage system. Silos, big houses were created where the millions and tons of food can be very well preserved. So these are the things which made we became self-dependent, and also we had a good reserve. Still, what are the problems in agriculture? The productivity is low or high? Still, our
Still low.
productivity is very
Low.
low compared to Australia and America, and there's a lot of scope to increase. So what we have to do is post-harvest utilization. What we have to do is,
Post-harvest.
so whenever the harvest is there, we should immediately put the use for some food processing industry. We need to have food processing. Second thing is doubling irrigation. What is the next thing we have to do is
Doubly irrigation.
whatever the irrigation areas are there, that has to be doubled. Whatever the present is, it has to be doubled. Next is soil health. Next thing what we have to do is
Soil health.
we have to understand what the quality of soil is. It has to be improved continuously. Next is water management, rainwater harvesting. What is the next thing that we have to do is
Water management.
water management, rainwater harvesting. Whenever the rain is there, that water has to be transferred to the ponds or transferred underground. So we need to have systems by which the water is preserved. Every drop of water is utilized with watershed management. Next is bridging the knowledge gap. See, in the research, whatever research we do regarding seeds and agriculture product, that knowledge has to be given to the farmers. So that is bridging knowledge gap. What is the next thing we have to do is
bridging knowledge gap.
Yeah, from the research to the farmer. It has to go to the farmer. Next is producing high value output. So nowadays, lot of like mushroom cultivation is there, then fruit, horticulture, spice, then medicinal herbs. So they fetch lot of money. Okay, so in agriculture we have to go for such things, high value goods. We high value outputs. What are the high value outputs? Fruits, spices is all the masalas that are there. Herbs, then medicine. They fetch very good prices. So when we'll do that, so agriculture income will increase. So this is all about the first sector, agriculture sector, which is the primary sector. You understood it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next sector we understand is the industry. Industry is contributing 19% of the GDP. Agriculture was giving 17%, and industry is giving 19%. 19% of GDP is coming through the industry. And after 1990, the entire system was liberalized. Once it was liberalized, the growth rate has improved. We have changed the policy of a liberal policy. The license Raj has gone, which was there earlier than 1990, but from 1990 onwards, it was a very open economy, and which has helped to improve the quality of technology. With the opening of our economy and allowing the global interface, we have been in a position to improve the technology. And a very important question that comes is, there is something called CSO, Central Statistical Organization. CSO stands for Statistical Organization. Okay. So this has classified the industry. This is a very important question that comes. Industry is classified as CSO into how many sectors? The answer is 3 sectors. In how many sectors CSO divides the industry? Okay. The first is mining and quarry. So whatever the raw material, whatever the iron ore and things are like bauxite and all is created, so that comes under mining and quarry. And the second is manufacturing. So whatever is manufactured, whether it's a textile industry, whether it's a car industry, whether it's an automobile industry, all this is manufacturing. And third, it divides as electricity, gas, and water. So straight away from the nature, electricity is produced from the nature, gas is produced from the nature, and water is managed from the nature. So these are the three industries in which CSO has divided. CSO divided the industry into three.
Three parts.
Number one is
Mind,
mining and quarry. Mining and quarry. Second is manufacturing.
Manufacturing.
Third is electricity, gas and water.
Gas and water.
Right. So in industry, another very important sector is MSMED, micro, small and medium enterprises. And there was a act which was passed in the year 2006, and it contributes in 2007, 39% of manufacturing was done by MSME. So the total industrial production, what was there, 61 was from the big industry, but MSMED's contribution was considerable. It was 39%. And in exports, it was contributing 34%. 34% of our exports were being done by MSME. And 35% of manufacturing employment opportunities were provided by micro and small enterprises. And the same contribution MSME has also played with respect to the services also. So what are the problems which micro and small industry faces? Number one is financing. They find it difficult to get the funds. So what the government has done, because banks will ask for collateral security and banks will ask for guarantee. So what the government has done is they have created CGTMSC, Credit Guarantee Trust for Micro and Small Enterprises. So this trust, which has been created by SIDBI is Small Industry Development Bank of India. So with this, the loans up to 5 lakhs, no collateral security, no guarantee. So this is a very, very big support that banks have been extending to the micro and small enterprises. And another thing that the contribution of banks has been considerably increasing. Right in 2005, it was just 60,000 crores. In 2005, it was 60,000 crores. And threefold increase was there. And from like 60,000 crores in the year 2005, it was 60,000 crores. It rose to 190,000 crores in the year 2009. See, 2005, it was 60,000 crores. And in 2009, which is just 4 years, it increased to 190,000 crores, almost 3 times.
3 times.
So considerable investment has been done in micro and small enterprises, and it has given the entrepreneurial scope also. And the loans up to 5 lakhs are covered under CGTMSC. No collateral security or bank guarantee is to be taken. So the purpose of the government of India is that micro and small enterprises are continuously encouraged so that they can, in even the COVID scenario, the government has given a lot of support to micro and small enterprises so that slowly and gradually the manufacturing capacity of the country improves. Now I'm going to discuss about the third sector, that is the services sector. Most important sector, it's also called the tertiary sector. Two-third of the GDP, almost 66, 64, 65% of GDP is being provided by services sector. So literally 64% of the. So when we look at the developed economies, in developed economies, the contribution of the service sector is more. But like we are a developing economy, we are not a developed economy. Still, we are showing the signs of that in service sector, we have contributed a lot. Our economy has been showing a sign, but mostly experts say that if Indian economy has to sustain in the long run, it has to see to it that its manufacturing as well as the agriculture sector goes strong. Service sector cannot sustain on its own. Service sector just cannot sustain on its own. So it has to be supported by So agriculture is the primary sector, very important.
Industry is the
Manufacturing is the secondary sector,
secondary,
again
and
very important.
services.
And service is the tertiary sector. But tertiary sector has been contributing to our income to the larger extent. But there's a very, very important need that we focus on the primary sector as well as secondary sector so that our economy growth can be sustained. So that is all that we had to study in this chapter 6 of Indian economy in various sectors. So now I quickly go through the Indian economy. What are the three phases?
1900 to 1950.
Second?
Second is 1950 to 1980.
Correct. Third phase?
1980 to 2005.
Exactly. What was the growth rate in first phase?
First phase is 0.9%.
Correct. What was the growth rate in the second phase?
Second phase, 3.5%.
Correct. And this is also known as? Hindu growth rate.
Hindu growth, yes.
Yeah. And what is the third phase?
6%.
Correct. And in the new millennium, from 2000,
8.5%.
Right. It was beyond 8% between 2005 and 2009. But when we see it from 2001 to 2009, it was 7.2%.
7.2%.
Correct. Very good. Very good. You are really wonderful girl. Let me tell you. Okay. Now we have to understand this thing. So now we are looking at the Indian economy is divided into three sectors. The first is the agriculture sector.
Agriculture. Second is the industry. Third is the service.
Correct. And in agriculture, the contribution of GDP is how much?
70%.
17%. And for employment, how much support it gives? 52%. 52% of the population. Okay. What is the best thing about Indian agriculture? In 1960s, what happened?
A green
revolution was there. Excellent. Very good. Anamika, you are just great. You have understood it beautifully. So green revolution, what were the things? Land was consolidated? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, land was consolidated. And high yield variety seeds were used, or yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So there were a high yield variety of seeds used, right?
Yes, sir. Water and sand.
Absolutely. Then lot of water management and things like that we went on. And what about the storage facilities? We improved the storage facility also. But still, our productivity is high or low?
Sir, low.
Low. Still, a lot of scope is there. So what we have to do is, we have to see that we continuously increase the irrigated area.
Yes, sir.
Right. And considerably, we have to increase the irrigation area. We have to continuously better the water management, and we have to put and post-harvest utilization. We need to have a food processing industry. So whatever is produced, it is obviously used, and we have to bridge the gap, knowledge gap. Okay, but from the research area to the farmer, the information has to go, and the soil quality and soil health has to be continuously improved. Okay, what was the second sector we discussed was industrial sector. How much it is contributing? 19%. 19% of the GDP is contributed industry. Industry, what the government of India has done is support MSME sector, micro, small and medium enterprises. Loans up to 5 lakhs, no collateral guarantee, no collateral security and guarantee. The entire thing is being taken care by CGTMA. CGTMSE has been created by SIDBI. Small Industry Development Bank of India. Okay. So continuously, the purpose is there that the contribution of MSME sector in giving employment opportunities in export as well as in manufacturing is continuously increased. What is the third sector we have studied is? Services sector. Its contribution is how much? 64%. Almost 2/3. Okay, 64% of the contribution to GDP has come. So there's a movement of a developed economy. From developing economy, we are slowly and gradually becoming towards a developed economy. But this we can sustain only if our industry as well as the agriculture sustain. So thanks a lot. Thank you, Anamika, for your wonderful contribution. Thanks to the entire team, Nishanji, Razaji, and Sindhu madam, who created this link and spread it all around. People came to, and last but not the least, our viewers also, who have been appreciating, encouraging all through. Thank you, friends. Please keep sharing the links. Please be with us. All the best. See you next week. Thank you.